The double reduction policy, to what extent has it ensured Chinese educational equality applying Nancy Fraser's social justice theory? Overview. The first one, the background of double reduction policy. The second one, practical application of the double reduction policy. Third one, from Nancy Fraser's theory to analyze the double reduction policy. Part 1, the background of the double reduction policy. With the modernization of education in China, many problems have risen. There is a proliferation of remedial classes in primary and secondary schools, and many parents and schools have neglected the importance of physical exercise in order for their children to improve their grades. This has left many students spending their time in extracurricular tuition. In order to target the phenomenon, the Chinese Ministry of Education has issued a series of measures on double reduction in July 2021, with the aim of helping current primary and secondary school students to reduce the pressure of schoolwork and emphasize physical activity. Part 2, practical application of the double reduction policy. Many cities have responded positively to the double reduction policy and quickly closed down many after-class tuition. Schools adopt new teaching methods and systems to ensure the policy was implemented. Many primary and middle school have extended the school day, encouraged the teacher to provide free after-school tutoring for students, trying to reduce the burden on students in terms of schoolwork. Next part will analyze the advantages and disadvantages of application of double reduction policy from the perspective of schools, after-class tuition, and families using Nancy Fraser's 3R theory. In this section, I would like to discuss the redistribution of Chinese education problem from two different perspectives. First of all, according to Nancy Fraser 2003, its points light. Redistribution is a way distributing resources from the dominant to the next class of people. Therefore, it is undeniable light. Double reduction policy in China really helps to redistribute the educational resources, such as immediately after the announcement of the double reduction policy, the implementation of the policy began in various provinces and municipalities, such as closure of extracurricular tutoring institutions, as well as the commencement of extended school hours in many primary and secondary schools, and the compulsory teaching of the extra classes by teachers. The results over time shows the approach is effective. According to UoM 2022, the double reduction policy has improved the mental health symptoms of students to a certain extent, appropriately increasing sleep time, participating in more extracurricular activities, and parental involvement, and reducing the burden of homework, and effective ways to promote the development of students' mental health. However, according to the specific implementation of double reduction policy, and I believe a large part of limitation of Chinese double reduction policy is that there are serious problems with the implementation policy. Provinces and municipalities and shut down most of their after-class institutions in response to double reduction policy, but this was not the original intention of the double reduction policy. It was intended to achieve a straighter approach to nurturing students' development at home, at school, and extracurricular institutions, but its implementation has been too extreme, which has led to increased pressure on schools and many teachers having to work longer time, in which teachers' rights are not well protected. On the other hand, the double reduction policy is not fundamentally ensure equality in education resources. On level of social class, the elite can hire private tutors for their children to replace the lack of extracurricular institutions. So on some level, the double reduction policy actually deprives the middle class of their privilege. According to my opinion polls, the internet also shows results that completely lie odds and reality of the survey. Many questionnaires show that the most parents are satisfied with the double reduction policy, but there are voices against it everywhere on the internet. So at this level, I think the double reduction policy is a not good implementation of Nancy Fraser's theoretical system.
There are similarities between the double reduction policy and Nancy Fraser's theory, both aim at building social equality. Fraser emphasized in the recognition dimension that some groups may face imbalance in terms of social identity, respect, and equal treatment compared to other groups in society. As for families, After implementing the policy, after-class tuitions is not allowed to offer courses publicly to students. However, the needs of student tutoring are still there, so they have to make one-on-one contact with school teachers. But the cost of tutoring paid is twice or even several times more than before. Due to the policy, families with slightly better economic conditions need to spend extra effort and money on tutoring. Poor families find it more difficult or impossible to obtain after-class tutoring than before, resulting in education profound inequality of opportunities. The fact is even crueler. Parents do not have reasonable ways to report or dare not to. Also, the competition between Chinese schools and between teachers become more intense. Teachers need to ensure every student's academic performance to improve the enrollment rate. This workload has shifted from after-class tuitions to school teachers. Some schools increase students' homework and secretly use holidays to conduct tutoring on campus. Teachers complained a lot, but there was no response. The variation operation method generated under the new policy reflects the unfair distribution of educational resources, affecting teachers and students' equal treatment and recognition. Many after-class tuition could not survive due to the policy, so they closed down or switched to the direction of art. New Oriental Education and Technical Group, one of the Chinese most famous tutoring tuition, was not spared. They had no choice but to change their business scope and methods and let those excellent tutors become TikTok live streamers. The policy has led to the closure of many tutoring tuitions and the unemployment of tutors, so they turn out to do more unmendable and less stable jobs, resulting in their discrimination or exclusion in society. In conclusion, the implementation of the policy indicates that Chinese government recognizes the existing unequality interaction among individual group members. Therefore, it hopes to enhance equality through policy adjustment so all students can receive education equally. The policy is not aimed at injustice of economic structure and social patterns, but rather at considering how to achieve the reconstruction and optimization of educational models under the same fair system. So the government refused to acknowledge the existence of the problems above. Thus, the formulation of the double reduction policy reflects the recognition theory, where the implementation process presents the problem of misrecognition.
As for the representation according to Nancy Fraser, misrepresentation might happen when people of a certain group have an unequal voice in decision-making and when their voices are not reflected truly and completely. Linking the theory to the policy, the voices in society about the policy are filtered and all the publicity is beautified. In more detail, I would like to explain it in three different perspectives. The first one is after-class tuition. According to the original document of the policy, advertising of after-class tuition is not allowed in many public places. Although it can regulate some institution poor behavior, there are fewer opportunities for institutions and staff to make their voices heard. Let's move on to the family perspective, especially for parents. It seems that the government takes the family discourse seriously as the policy itself and lots of research think highly of the educational burden on students and parents. However, the double reduction policy encourages positive speech, so it is challenging for some negative statements to come to light. To give an example, the Chinese Ministry of Education provides a very impressive data such as the high level of satisfaction. At the same time, most of the social media, such as the People's Daily, reports the remarkable achievement of the policy. However, the truth may be different from the official reports. As we can see in the screenshot, the public voices are mostly criticisms. And therefore, it is reasonable to infer that the parents and students fail to give a real voice and the negative feedback might be filtered out. As for the school and teacher, they also receive attention, but they are forced by political pressure to hide their true insides. I would like to briefly mention my experience here to illustrate my opinion. When I was a trainee teacher in primary school in 2021, it is not allowed to have exam, but actually we still have them almost once a week. When the government came to the school, the teachers let the student to tell the lie that we don't have any exam, we only have some practice. So another example is come from my friend, and he want to investigate the effects of the double reduction, but many teachers refuse to be interviewed because they are afraid of being punished. In conclusion, while the double reduction policy does bring us some benefits, it also hides some unsatisfactory problems. Furthermore, those whose voices are valued may not really hold the power of speech, and their needs may be ignored to some extent. That's all. Thank you for your listening.